Check, check. You guys hear me? We good? We going? We moving? How's it going, guys? Just giving it a second for some people to get in here. We're going to talk about what's going on in Venezuela. Talk about Zoran a little bit. We're going to talk about some other things. How we doing? How we doing? Shit's going down in Venezuela. You guys can hear me? I was trying to get some beats playing in the back, but yeah, they fucking there's some explosions going off in Venezuela, in Caracas, which is the capital, at some military sites, I believe. No reports of any deaths yet or anything like that, but we're gonna go over some of this footage and stuff. How's everybody doing tonight? Yeah, it's going down. It's going down for sure. So let's just go ahead and get into it. All right, so this is some video footage from Drop Site. Drop Site News.
Graba ahí. Espera. Marico, no puedo creer esta mierda. Marico, tengo el corazón aquí. Ya, marico.
You can see the explosions happening there. And they're saying there's low flying planes. But what the reporting has not said is that there are bombs being dropped. Low flying aircraft are seen and heard from across the capital. And then here you can see the aircrafts. So this is a military operation. We are officially at war in Venezuela. Because even if, regardless of what happens after this, Venezuela backs off, this ends tomorrow, Trump backs off, Venezuela doesn't even, there is no backing off. Mierda, marico, se prendió el pedo de esta mierda, yo. So there's really no such thing as backing off of this for Venezuela. But the point is that even if this stops tomorrow, we still have engaged them in war. People might die because of this, even just this. And the president has effectively superseded Congress in going to war with another nation, which already Trump has done that, and also pretty much every president has done that in terms of, you know, doing some kind of military strike, which technically they're not supposed to do without the permission of Congress. So I was trying to show the video. Did it play? Yeah, it should have played. Yeah, it's definitely an illegal war. Trump's actions have already been illegal in that sense. But when it's just kind of approaching, getting on the edge of actually being at war, then they can kind of get away with it, like how they have been with these boat strikes. But once you're actually obviously on video engaging in this country in warfare, then, you know, there's really no way to say that the president has not declared war on Venezuela. And if you look at this video, I mean, the military operation here could not be more clear. These are planes flying over Venezuela in a coordinated fashion, dropping these bombs. Now, like I said, low-flying aircraft were seen and heard from across the capital. Explosions around Caracas. So they're not confirming yet that, like, these were bombs dropped by the U.S. for whatever reason. Obviously, that's the case. but that's not yet what they are saying.
Mierda, marico, se prendió el peo en esta mierda, yo.
556 Justice, what exactly, what don't you think is to believe about this? Do you see this? Are you saying this is fake?
Marico, llegamos a tiempo a la casa.
This is Trump going to war in Venezuela. If you like Trump and you don't want to abandon him over this, your best bet is to just justify this, because there's no way to say he's not doing it.
Sí, sí.
Yep.
Tengo el corazón a mil, pues.
Yeah, so I feel like this is probably going to be a pretty fast thing, which I think is the calculation of Trump. Trump is calculating that if they apply a lot of pressure, Venezuela will fold quickly. This is an article from Drop Site about how the people of Venezuela are responding to this onslaught. Yeah, there's definitely gonna be more information that comes. This comes right now. Walday, yeah, you're talking about who was it? 556 Justice. I think that was just a troll who said that and then got out. Hi, Amira. We're talking about war, baby. Venezuela's grassroots organizers and communards are responding with defiance and steadfast willingness to defend their country's sovereignty in the imposition of a total and complete blockade. In an interview last Friday, Trump said U.S. destroyed a big facility engaged in drug trafficking. That would be the first known attack on Venezuelan land. He told reporters at Mar-a-Lago, they load the boats up with drugs, so we hit all the boats. That's how they've been approaching this so far. Now they're doing land strikes. And the thing about the Trump administration is that they basically never have to present any proof of anything. They've conditioned their people to accept whatever they say without any kind of proof. They never need any. So that means that this drug thing, they haven't proved it in the case of the boats, they haven't proved it with the docks, and they haven't proved it, they're definitely not going to prove it with these land strikes. Because now we're hitting military facilities. We're not even hitting, actual drug facilities. What's the substantiation that they are moving drugs or making drugs at these facilities? We're just never going to get that. And instead, what we're going to get at some point is large leaks, WikiLeaks style dumps of information that tells us that these are not drug involved strikes. And they knew that. So that information is going to come out at some point because that's what's happening here. And there may, in the cases of some of these boats or some of these instances, there may be some drugs. But the idea that that's what's going on here, that that's what this is about, is bunk and isn't going to last, but it doesn't need to because the pretext is already set. The propaganda arm of, the right-wing media world has already ran with it. And so now Trump can do this. He can actively bomb Venezuela. And there's a portion of the population, a flank of the population that will justify it. So that's just where we're at now. People are going to wake up tomorrow morning and they're going to immediately start justifying this. And that's regardless of how it goes. And there's multiple ways it could go. Like I said, this could collapse fast on either side. A lot of what Trump has done so far is deal with me, fucking cowards. What are you talking about? Walday. Posing as liberals, undercover Republicans. What are you talking about, FT? Walday? I thought I was I thought I was on the same page as you before, but now I don't think so. Yeah, so either this is going to fall apart immediately, or it's going to be a long-term engagement. Now, that's where Trump is in the least favorable position. So I imagine if it doesn't look like Venezuela is going to fold immediately, Trump eventually will, because Trump doesn't want this. He knows that a long, drawn-out war, especially one that we end up, losing, Vietnam style, or at least like not dominating Vietnam style, then Trump's going to recognize that that's bad for him. He doesn't want that look. So that's why it's dumb to engage in this, because he's obviously taking the gamble that because America... Okay, this is a crazy person. Has this person been on the channel before? Yeah, I don't know who that is. Whatever. But yeah, so long-term engagement, probably. But the long-term engagement, I don't think is what's going to save face. That's what I'm thinking. Like, it's going to look bad fast. It already looks bad. Nobody wants this. So you have the propaganda wing of the right that's going to justify it. And they're going to continue justifying it. The longer they do that, the stronger that narrative will be. So I guess there's that. There's the calculation could be that they can continue painting this propaganda for long enough that it will convince people that we need to be at war in Venezuela. But that could sustain Trump for a while, but that's certainly not going to hold up in terms of him, being viewed as a popular president. Like, not at all. The war thing is going to ruin that. He could get away with a lot, but sending us to war in a way that everybody knows is for no reason, then that's just not going to. It's not a wise thing for any president to do. Just a very dumb thing to do. Very, very much over leveraging his power. In an interview last Friday. I already said that. This latest escalation comes as thousands of troops have been deployed in the Caribbean since mid-August off Venezuela's coast. The U.S. blockade, based on claims made without evidence, was deployed under counter-narcotics missions against Maduro's government. Trump claimed in mid-December that the U.S. was entitled to oil rights in Venezuela, citing that ExxonMobil and Conoco had been thrown out of the South American nation 2 decades ago because Maduro was not allowing for private capital to be dealing with their oil in the same way that we do in America. It is what's the opposite of privatized? What should we do about Trump? Well, war tends to lead to in the streets movement. She's screen maxing. That's honestly what I do every day here at work. War tends to be an issue that gets people out in the streets. That was the case with Vietnam. That was the case with Iraq. And it will probably be the case now if this turns into a sustained thing. And so the difference now is that even in the absence of war, you still have these massive on-the-ground movements to protest ICE and no kings and stuff like that. Some, more fangless than others. But the point being that if there is enough time for backlash to the war, to this war that is now being engaged, to mount, then that could be an opportune moment to really maximize the pressure against Trump. So if the war continues in that direction, And this all now becomes one of the main subjects that we have to discuss is war in Venezuela. That will probably lead to an enormous amount of backlash that can be capitalized upon. Nationalized. Yeah, that was the word I was looking for. Yeah, so Maduro's oil reserves are nationalized. Venezuela's, I should say, although bit of a Freudian slip there. But they nationalized their oil reserves, so that's why Trump is crying. So he's actually kind of revealing the ball game there. He's saying that the companies that the people that want him to be doing this are ExxonMobil and Conoco. Trump will always tell you exactly, because whoever he talked to about something, it's always like the last thing in his mind. And so he'll just spit that out. So that's what he's saying here. He's saying that we're entitled to oil rights because Venezuela kicked out companies like ExxonMobil and Conoco. That's what this is about. It's about capital and fossil fuel infrastructure, obviously. So what that also means, and everybody should internalize this, if this goes on, what this is an opportunity to radicalize people on the issue of fossil fuels and on the issue of climate. And that's the foolishness of the Trump administration, is that he's now making the public conversation about that, even when it wasn't. It should have been. It always should have been. We should never stop talking about fossil fuels and climate change, but we had stopped talking about those things. And now, because of this specific conflict and the way it's being done, there's an opportunity to recenter the conversation about not just how climate change is happening, oil companies are making it worse, but this global neoliberal pursuit of oil profit is driving the world towards war, inevitable world conflict, and also exploiting the earth to the point of destruction. That's something that, has been very difficult to talk to people about in a mainstream way. But if this war goes on and becomes, a major event for the next year or however long, it's an opportunity to talk to people about that subject. Trump never suffers the consequences, but he does when his own people are upset, which they will be over this. The reason why, it's a pretty simple dynamic when you think about it. There's an enormous amount of opposition to Trump, but Trump has polarized things enough so that that opposition fits cleanly into the camp of Democrats, liberals, leftists. So in those instances, like no kings, that doesn't spill over into his base of support. And he has also set up a bulwark against any of the messaging coming from the leftward direction affecting him at all. And so in the instances like with the Epstein files and a little bit with the war stuff, although most of the Trumpers seem pretty quick to get in line when it comes to the issue of war, we'll see where that goes, that you have more rumblings on their side of, people who voted for Trump who are upset that he's doing these things. And those are the instances where he feels it. And we are in a difficult position because it's difficult to organize across those lines because there are so many sort of, existential disagreements between the people on the right who are going to be mad about the Epstein files and going to war in Venezuela, and the people on the left who are going to be mad about those things as well. And so creating pressure with that coalition, as much as I hate to call it that, is one of the only ways that like that type of protest energy is going to do anything to Trump. Because when it's just liberals and leftists, they don't have to care about it. The only way they would have to care about it is if it was maximally destructive and disruptive, which is also an option and happens a little bit. Also hasn't been that effective because that does not have mainstream popular support as of right now. Some random guy says he's not upset with Trump. Well, you should be. Of course they claim to hate neocon wars. And there are people on the right who are going to remember that. And they're going to acknowledge that. And talking to those people as quickly as possible before some of the other propaganda can seep through to them is going to be crucial. MAGA dilemma, but the answers were not coming from where they want. Regulated freestyle videos. That's an interesting name you got there. The MAGA dilemma, where the pieces are starting to come together, but the answers are not coming from where they want. Hell yeah, Dark Lord. Okay, well, I think that's okay that you feel that way, some random guy, but I think a lot of people are upset with him, and I think going to war in Venezuela is bad. So if you don't think going to war in Venezuela is bad, you can at least agree that he ran on not doing that, right? He ran on not going to war, not being the police of the world, and now he's doing that. So even if you're okay with that because you always knew he was lying, it's also true that he lied to a lot of the people that voted for him, and those people are not going to be happy with him. Even if his base turns on him, he's surrounded by yes men. March to DC. I agree with you. And that's what I'm saying is that these war conflicts tend to be what creates that type of momentum. Part of what we have to do, since as the left, we're on the back foot right now, gaining a little bit more ground, but still on the back foot, is we have to ride the waves as they come. We don't get to decide where the waves are right now and what creates the swells of unrest. Because the culture has been fragmented, and frankly, a lot of them have been radicalized to the right in a way that they don't quite realize. And so there are things that come up that upset, people on a broad level that doesn't fit cleanly into the, like, we are the leftist opposition to Trump category. So those are the issues that leftists need to show up for, and show up in a way that helps to mount that pressure and doesn't co-opt whatever that issue is into something more leftister, although that is the temptation. But the only choice we have right now is to take stock of the things that do upset not just Trump's base, but outside of that, like sort of the normie base, right? Because a lot of those normies are not as anti-Trump as we might want them to be. Some of them are, sure, but a lot of them aren't, because they've been bathed in anti-Trump propaganda for a long time, and I use propaganda in the friendliest sense there, as well as pro-Trump propaganda. And so a lot of people are kind of numb to that. And, stuff like going to war in Venezuela or the Epstein files being really bad for Trump, that is going to cause a lot of those people to realize that Trump is bad. And it's unfortunate that everybody has the attention span of a goldfish, but that's just where we're at, is that there's a lot of people who don't have it deeply ingrained in their mind that Trump is just like fundamentally bad on most levels. They don't think that way. They don't agree with that. And also a lot of people don't care enough to even like have that opinion. So those are the people that something like going to war, is an opportunity to change their mind and to radicalize them to the left. But we don't control the narrative enough to decide when and how those moments come. And that's just the reality. We have to be observant. We're not necessarily in control of the situation politically, but that doesn't mean that couldn't change. It's just a matter of showing up at the right places at the right time. You don't believe the Trump base is as large as you think it is? I will not get in line. Some random guy. That's you. You're a pussy. What you are is a bootlicker. And you like authority. And you like to cuck yourself out to authority figures, especially fascist ones. But that's the difference with me, is I'm built different than that. And that could never be me. No, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just trying to like not get too caught up responding to every message at once. I'm not ignoring you, Amira. No, there's not too many rightazoids in the chat right now. A couple. I think some random guy is just trolling. Honestly, these vertical lives do attract a certain amount of like trolling and right-winger behavior. It's just the way it goes. It'd be fun to see how some of the conservative media personalities, yeah, they're going to do it immediately. And to be honest, I don't think it's going to make the split worse. I think most of the rightazoids are going to get in line. I've never said rightazoids before, but I like that. It's funny. I think they're mostly going to get in line. They don't, you know, they're not built to oppose war. So you got some libertarians, but those libertarians are going to be pretty open to certain arguments. Geopolitics of this is really bad. What do you mean, Dark Lord? Elaborate. Still sucking Trump dick. I don't know. I don't get it. Yeah, they're back to war. They need the most basic arguments for it. You know, they really don't. It doesn't take much. It feels like most of the people who were frustrated with Trump over the war stuff found a reason to change their tune. Now, I think there's going to be another wave. I think people like Tim Dillon, Andrew Schultz, maybe less so Schultz. Tim Dillon's definitely going to have something to say about this. People like Dave Smith, you know, those are the main prominent libertarian voices I can think of that would say something about this. But there are others. Tucker is probably going to say that he opposes this. But that's where it gets weird with Tucker, because Tucker opposes Israel. So he's willing to say things like, you know, this anti-Islam propaganda we get in America is like fundamentally racist and it's a psyop. He says things like that. But that's purely in the interest of like opposing what he views to be Israel's agenda. So, you know, is he going to be sympathetic to this idea of going to war over drugs? Like, probably. It's hard to tell with these conservatives now, because they always say they're principally against war or against doing this or that. But then all it takes is a little bit of a justification for doing it, and they're on board. So, you know, they go back to the neocon instinct immediately. So that's where I'm like, you know, anybody from Tim Dillon to Tucker Carlson to Joe Rogan, it's like the second they lay out the case to, you know, for Joe Rogan to repeat on his show, he's gonna do it. Message retracted. Utah being bad on the internet. I would say it to your face. Some random guy speaks. Because you're a little bitch. Absolutely disgusting. Yeah. Whatever happened to Jimmy Dore? What do I call myself in terms of political views? Like leftist. You know, you could say, I guess if I really had to nail it down to a designation, you could say democratic socialist, but I don't even really care for the label to that extent. Just leftist. As of right now, I'm just in favor of pushing politics to the left. I feel like I can focus more on designating myself at a time when that feels a little more realistic. Oh, it's definitely going to backfire. It's definitely going to backfire. It's just a matter of how much happens, how fast. because things have happened pretty fast under Trump so far. And so I think that they're still betting on that. Venezuela's takeovers signaling to China, take Taiwan over. I don't know. Not really the one to speak on the Taiwan thing. I've heard a couple people say that, but I feel like that's just such... First of all, I don't know that that's true. In this instance, I don't think that that necessarily signals that to China, that they can do that in Taiwan and that we wouldn't retaliate. I think, if anything, China might be nervous about us retaliating in general. They might be nervous about upsetting the United States militarily in some way. And the truth is that China is just less aggressive when it comes to that on pretty much every level. So I don't really get why we look at everything, because I heard somebody say that on the news the other day, that like that Putin and Ukraine, and the way America is treating Putin's onslaught in Ukraine is something that that China can look at and say, oh, we could get away with invading Taiwan. That makes more sense to me, because that's a more similar dynamic. You look at Russia invading Ukraine, and that is, you know, comparable in terms of our interest in Ukraine and our interest in Taiwan, not wanting to let the bigger, less allied entity take over that territory. So I sort of get that argument, but at the same time, it's like, that's not, I don't know. China seems like some of the least aggressive on the world stage at the moment. So yeah, you could say like, oh, that's like the art of war or whatever, but like, I don't know. Russia is imperializing, America is imperializing, Israel is imperializing, and we're all pointing fingers at China, which by and large is not imperializing. They have their, you know, their global geopolitical maneuvers that they pull. And obviously Taiwan is a, something's going to happen with that at some point. China does want that. But to me, I'm just not seeing indications that China plans any type of military engagements anytime soon. It seems like we're the ones who are doing that. Have a good night. Never be unknown. That's weird, cred, but okay. I'm glad you're listening. If you're a hard right winger, that's good. It may backfire. I think it will backfire with the base, but I just think that they seem to be less animated by the anti-war thing. Interesting, cred. So what are you, like a Nick Fuentes type? Hard Second Amendment, especially with the tyrants. Yeah, I can get down with that, Blackheart. I've never been more pro Second Amendment than I am right now, that's for sure. Yeah, China is not achieving their goals through war at the moment. I mean, they are pursuing their goals, there's no doubt about that, but there's no real war on drugs. Okay. Oh, interesting. You post a lot of Red Bar videos, it looks like. Yeah, I mean, I don't support Nazis and fascists, so I don't support Nick. Yeah, man, Trump invading Venezuela was so funny. He's a murderer, man. Yeah, I wonder what Joe's going to say about this. That's the thing about Joe, is that he never really takes a hard stance against anything except like trans people and like wokeness or something. That's the only thing that he'll really make an impassioned stance on. But anytime he's criticizing the right, it's more of this like, oh, man, yeah, I just don't know what to do about that. I don't know. What are we going to say? Man, it's just crazy how Trump's going to war in Venezuela. Like, that's not how you do that, man. That's not how you solve that problem, man. Going to war in Venezuela. But then he just said the thing too about the boats. He said the reason we're going after the boats, or the reason drug overdoses have dropped in America, is because Trump going after these boats. Even though he was looking at a graph that literally showed drug overdoses falling before Trump got in office. That was the graph he was showing on his show that Jamie pulled up. And that's what I was saying about Jamie, bro, is that like Jamie needs to do his fucking job better. Even if Joe doesn't want him to, it doesn't matter. Like he needs to be better at fact checking his dumb fuck boss and like programming the show more. Like he has the ability to help control the flow of conversation. Obviously he can't control it completely, but like by having real information lined up, you can tell ahead of time what the fuck Joe's going to get into. He's sitting there looking at his phone, scrolling, right-wing bullshit and AI slop all day, and then repeating it on the show. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like it's Jamie's responsibility to be ready to counter that and not be constantly like defensive. But Gleep Glorp. He wants to keep his job. I mean, yeah, obviously. I mean, he's probably gotten paid fucking millions of dollars at this point, so I get it. But at a certain point, it's like, what are you doing? Because I think people have pointed out that Jamie seems to be like a little bit more left-leaning. And so it just seems like anybody who is that, obviously he works for Joe, so he's not like, he's not much of a hero. But I don't know. It just seems to me that it seems to me that he has the power and the respect from Joe that he could do a much better job at. Because like, how are you going to pull up a graph that says that drug overdoses have dropped since like, it was like from 2024 leading up to 2025, which is because of Biden era policies and other factors. And you allow Joe to say that that's because Trump has bombed a few boats extrajudicially. Like, I don't know. How do you at a certain point, you're complicit in some pretty alarming propaganda. Trip hop in general. Hell yeah. Nano. So you like, yeah, I love Portishead. Algie, you know what happened is YouTube deleted that video because it had footage from Dave Chappelle's Netflix special, which I should have, I got around the content ID eventually, but they came back and got me. So I was just like, whatever. I could re-upload it. I could allow it to be re-uploaded by cutting out the Dave Chappelle portion. But I didn't want to do that. So I don't know. Tell me what you think. If you think I should just re-upload it, but I figured, I got my shit off on that one. It got a few views and then they deleted it. So I decided it was better not to deal with it anymore, but China doesn't have the easy options for expeditionary wars that naval powers have. Less likely inclined to start wars, but still willing. I think they're willing. I think they're ready to an extent. But the other reality when it comes to China is that they are just not as imperialistically engaged with the rest of the world. They have taken a much more soft power approach, and to great effect. China has a better relationship with its allies, say in Africa, than America does, because of their approach being less imperial and more altruistic is the wrong word, but magnanimous, I suppose. So I understand the concern about Taiwan, but I think that China being cast as a constant military threat is just enormously hypocritical. That's just not how they engage. That's not, so far from what we've seen, that's not how they engage on the world stage. You think I should re-upload it, Algie? Maybe I will. Hell yeah, Milikowski. Yeah, I knew they were going to get me for the Chappelle thing, but I got like 4,000 views before it got yeeted, so maybe I will put it back up without the clip in it. I'll just have to put a note so that people aren't in the comments like, "Oh, hey, bro." Amira, which part should I explain in pop terms? The thing about China? Let me see. The thing about China. Okay. In pop terms. Hold on, I'm almost there. I don't know. I don't know if I could explain it in pop terms. I was gonna go with something about like Nicki Minaj and Cardi B. Like, people say Cardi B is militant because she's willing to respond when someone like Nicki Minaj comes after her. But really, it's hypocritical of Nicki because she's the one who is always trying to cause global geopolitical conflicts. And then she points the finger at her victims. But I don't know how to explain the Taiwan part. The Jamie stuff one? Oh, okay. How do I explain that in pop terms? Chapel Roan has assistants that sometimes cause wardrobe malfunctions, and at a certain point, it's their responsibility to make sure that her outfit isn't falling apart, even though she does have a certain amount of freedom to dance around and do things that are unexpected on stage. It's the job of the costume designers to design costumes that are flexible so that their client doesn't end up looking crazy and they don't put a bad product out into the world. Worried about the U.S. intervening? I don't know if I agree with that, Kurtz doppelganger. I don't think it's sound logic to say that they would be more aggressive without the United States. I think it's sound logic to say they are capable of being more aggressive, and we could see that happen at some point. But I think that it's fair to say that they take a much less destructive and combative approach to world politics. And that's a point in their favor against the United States, in my opinion. Yeah, the U.S. probably does have boots on the ground. I mean, this might be a full-scale invasion for all we know. Let's look at it a little more. Trump claimed it in December. Yeah, the oil rights thing. Actions were denounced as piracy under unilateral sanctions. The Maduro government called the seizures an act of piracy as well as theft. Each vessel was carrying 1.8 million barrels of oil, and Trump is going to retain that. Joe Rogan would be Chapel, and Jamie would be the costume designers. So Jamie is Joe Rogan's podcast producer, and I'm saying that he allows Joe to put out a lot of misinformation by not correcting him properly and not being prepared to correct him. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. F the GOP. Like but you know, I'm open to the idea. It's not like, you know, it's not like Venezuela is a beacon of how a country should be governed. But just like any other communist nation or anything approaching it, it has been, purposely crushed by sanctions. So it's really just hard to say. But I agree with you that I certainly don't believe anything that these fucking lunatics are saying about Maduro, because we just weren't hearing about it. Maduro was a non-issue up until Trump came into power. Now all of a sudden he's the worst guy, and now they're going to start telling us about, oh, this horrible human rights abuse and he's a brutal dictator. Give me a fucking break. Yeah, I agree with you, NJ Anderson. U.S. style imperialism. China invaded Tibet and East Turkestan. If they take Taiwan, China will emerge as a naval power. Academically, this is considered as likely creating the conditions for China's imperialism to shift. Well, I mean, I think that's a pretty sound case that you're making there, but I think academically this is considered likely to create the conditions for their imperialism to shift is the part where a lot of leaps are being made. But it's fair to say. But even still, if that's the case, the picture that's being painted is that China wants to be an imperial power, but can't because it is underneath the boot of America's existing imperial power. And I don't know if I buy the premise, but also I do kind of have a fundamental issue with that organization of world power, especially considering China has been less aggressive and less destructive on the world stage. Countries with conflict should fight their wars in COD or squad, preferably. Trump invading Venezuela is very bad for the world. Yeah, 100% it is. No question. But that being because China is going to do something in Taiwan because of it, I don't see that connection. I think that China potentially doing something in Taiwan is separate. It's it's still potentially possible. But Ebby. I mean, I think it follows that China would be acting more aggressively if it felt there wasn't anything to stop it. Yeah, I guess, but I just don't buy the premise that, like, they are an inevitable, malignant, malicious force, and that's why repression is justified. I mean, that's the logic of all repression. And I think that it just is it's a flawed premise. Could be the case with China. I mean, there's certainly the case to be made for the fact that they want to be more aggressive than they are. But, I mean, if you ask me to compare which I prefer, Chinese imperialism or American imperialism, I might prefer Chinese, frankly. And that's partially just because they have engaged in less destructive actions on the world stage. I don't know how else to say it other than that. That we can make arguments all day that they have the potential to do this and they really want to do this, but they can't because we're not letting them. That's why we have to have this incredible, constantly funded military power. But I think that's the logic of United States foreign policy across the board, and I kind of reject it. That's the logic of what we're doing in Venezuela right now, too. That's why we have repressed places like Venezuela and made it hard for them to govern themselves, is so that they won't get themselves into a more strategically advantageous position and theoretically become a threat to the United States. I just don't buy that. Yeah, I'm with you, but I am talking about in current terms. I'm not really like divvying up like, throughout all history. China's also a much older nation than we are. Yeah, and I mean China is just a lot smarter. So it's like they're not going to do some type of war conflict unless they have to. And we have seen the United States get itself involved in irresponsible pointlessly destructive warfare on the world stage. In recent memory, in distant memory, relatively consistently, America has done that, and China has not. So I just don't get the point of saying that the real bad thing about American imperialism is that, or even Russian imperialism, is that it's going to encourage Chinese imperialism. I get the idea that the rising temperature or the ability for despots to, you know, gain more territory and more leverage, less oversight. I get that argument, but I do think that that's where the Western anti-China propaganda kicks in a little bit, where it's like, you know, the real reason that war is bad is because this country that hasn't done anything yet might eventually do something. It's just a weird logic that always seems to be pointing towards war. It always is pointing towards more military and weapons investment. Don't like the idea of excusing Chinese imperialism because the United States is worse. Well, I'm not excusing it. I'm saying that they don't do it as much as we do. So what I'm saying is that people are using this for some reason to critique imaginary Chinese imperialism. In the instances that they have engaged in imperialism, I don't support that. I don't support them imperializing Taiwan. But I mean, would it be better for America to control that territory? That doesn't really make sense to me either. So at that point, you're just comparing the two. Which imperialism from which state is better? And that's when, you know, the world becomes a chessboard of like who has more leverage. So, you know, I'm not in favor of China doing imperialism. I'm just saying they do it less than we do. I think that's fairly objective. We can kind of leave it at that. I don't know what else there is to say. You young people are very stupid. It's wild that Emperor Xi being sane is genuinely one of the big comforts on the world stage. Well, he doesn't tend to govern like a madman. Japanese culture in the chat. Everybody like and subscribe and share. Share with your friends. They did it to Hong Kong recently. They did what to Hong Kong recently? What are you referring to? And like, why are we talking about China, bro? Like, that's what I'm saying. America is bombing Venezuela right now. So like, maybe China will become a problem in the future. Maybe people are right that China is the biggest problem, but I don't see it that way. Currently, right now, we are being the biggest problem. Okay, gotcha. So you're talking about some like tightening of sanctions and stuff on Hong Kong? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's all pretty like regional stuff. It's not the same as America or Russia rolling in the tanks. So I just don't think that they are. I didn't graduate from university. Hell yeah, Dark Lord, of course. Yeah, I graduated from Eb&Flow University. Hate the fact that these politicians get up on Napoleon and lie through his teeth. I remember Rogan was talking about watching the first Iraq war strikes, tripping with Stanhope. Wonder who he's hanging with now. He's probably at the mothership. US and Russia way more of a worry than China. Yeah, I mean, I think the United States is pretty clearly the biggest problem on the world stage. And then when you combine that with the fact that they seem to be collaborating with Russia to a certain extent, kind of enabling Russia. Although I guess American policy has kind of enabled Russia in general, so it's not really like that's new. U.S. has revealed to the world that its true intention has been to plunder oil, land, and resources. Spokesman for a rural commune told Dropsite News. Yeah, so this is a Dropsite article about how some of the more grassroots organizations in Venezuela are organizing around this and are not wanting to roll over to U.S. imperialism. Venezuela's communes are assembly-driven, constitutionally mandated, at the heart of the country's socialist project. I don't know enough about Venezuela's like government and how it works there. This is why Michael Brooks needs to be alive still, bro. Because like he was the one that was like multinational to the max, bro. He would have been ready to talk about this. He would have been the best possible person to have talking about this. It's a hard act to follow, man. There's a lot of people that want to carry on the work that Michael Brooks was doing, and it is not easy. Stuff that came very naturally to him is not easy work to do. Yes, I do work for Russia today. I do. That's why I'm so pro-Russia on this account. Yeah, Dropsite has been doing some of just the absolute best reporting on the market. I haven't seen anything else like it. It's detailed stuff. It's incredibly well sourced. They're getting in before anybody else. All the hot button issues, but in like an incredibly detailed, non-salacious way. Pootler kaput. Hell yeah, have a good night, Cred. I want that Russian money. I think I'm getting Russian money through Cred, but it's okay, I'll take it. It's legal to take tenant money if it comes through super chats, I think. Thank you, Cred. I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here. Literally place Russia as like number 2 naughty nation after US. Yeah, I don't get it. Distribute their communities based on the principle of life over capital. Yeah, Cred is Russia. Have a good night, Cred. Try not to bomb Ukraine overnight. I know it's tough. I'm from Cincinnati. I live in Los Angeles right now. From Cincinnati, Ohio, baby. I was actually born in New York, but I grew up in Cincinnati. I always drop so much lore on these live streams. Communal circuits offer a range of goods. Hecho and Communa. Damn, I'm going to read more about this. Distribute beyond their communities based on the principle of life over capital. Country is better prepared to withstand any form of economic sabotage than it was between 2017 and 2020. That's interesting. Key imports such as foodstuff were cut off by unilateral sanctions. So this is somebody saying that in 2017 and 2020, which was Trump's last presidency, they were essentially crushed by these sanctions. But in the meantime, different types of communes and economic circuits have been set up to counter the capitalistic distribution of things so that Venezuela can withstand those type of sanctions. Hell yeah, thank you, actual fandom. I appreciate you tuning in. You thought I was black, back to basics? Nope. White guy. I'm scared about Venezuela because if they get invaded, Mexico's for sure going to be next. Invading Mexico would be so fucking insane. Am I a Bengals fan? No, not really. But I was tapped in that one year, a few years back, where they were doing well. But I'm not big on sports in general. Was never really into the Bengals. No, that was my buddy Money Longer. Money Longer is the videographer that I've always done videos with. Every video I've ever done has been with him. And we actually moved to Los Angeles together a few years back. So we're both from Cincinnati. And he had some labels out here that wanted to work with him. So I kind of moved out here with him to help hold him down. And, you know, we both just been kind of doing our own thing ever since. So that's, is that the first real video we've done? No, we've done a couple smaller videos since I moved out here. But that was the first full song I think we shot to since moving out here. Joe Burrow over to Dallas. Joe, yeah, he'd probably thrive somewhere else. He had that one opportunity, you know, to win that Super Bowl a few years back for the Bengals. And then after that, he just hasn't had the same type of momentum. I don't think they're going to catch it back. Rescue people, but cautions followers not to sell their belongings based on this message. I've seen, didn't that happen a few months back that he was arrested? Animals have already started moving. His claims have triggered intense debate. Why has he been arrested? Didn't that happen a few months back? That it was like a guy said the world was going to end and it was big live streams and stuff and then it was just a big flop. No, they said the rapture was going to happen. Oh, I would 100% collaborate with somebody like Kyle Kalinske. My thing is trying to figure out exactly what that looks like. I went on the Letter Hacks show. He reached out to me and offered to just have me do an interview with him. So that was fun. I did a little quick interview on his live stream. He's the only person that's interviewed me in the left wing space. So I've been thinking lately now about like reaching out to people, and like Majority Report has reposted my videos a couple times. So I know they got their eye on me. So if I reached out to them, they'd probably respond. But I don't know. I'm just kind of focused on building. I don't feel like big enough for that. But I guess that's why I have to communicate with people. So, or collaborate with people. So, but yeah, like me and Kyle, like, I don't know, if he wanted to interview me, I would absolutely do it. Do I want to interview people like Kyle Kalinske? I guess I could. I don't really see myself doing that kind of stuff. One thing I would like to do is do a podcast with other people, like have a guest on the podcast and have like another little cartoon head, you know, like a little Kyle Kalinske cartoon talking next to me. Like that would be cool. I would do that for sure. Yeah, that's cool that you found me. But yeah, I remember when he posted the Bill Burr video that I did. That was really awesome. So yeah, they've looked at, I've watched Kyle Kalinske and Majority Report for like the last, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. And both of them have given me a pretty good look out. So I appreciate that from them for sure. So to me, that's almost like I'm cool with that, you know? It's like an acknowledgement. I feel like if I have a good idea, then maybe I would go through them. Like the Majority Report, like I would reach out to them if I had something I wanted to promote. Like, hey, can I come on your show and promote this, you know, diss track that I did about some right-wing rapper, like they would probably have me on. You know what I mean? So that would make sense. I don't know if I would want to do it super casually, but if they reached out to me on some casual shit, fuck yeah. Yeah, Cred went to bed. Cred's a little weird. Cred said he was far right, but he's a big fan of me. So whatever. I think I attracted some weird. You attract weird viewers anytime you talk about Nick Fuentes. So I think that gives me a little bit of a weird vibe. I try not to talk directly about him much, but anytime I do, I get some really weird engagement from it, and I feel like that must be where that guy came from. Yeah, I remember when Ben Dixon mentioned me too. That was a long time ago. That was like when the channel was first getting its first little bump, when I was talking about the Young Turks and stuff. Hey, what's up? Cred's still here. He did send me a lot of money. Does collabs or anything? Yeah, Kyle's cool. Is it true that you found me from me talking about Nick Fuentes, Cred? Eb versus Tom McDonald. I dissed Tom McDonald some years back. Okay. That's cool. I just don't understand how you're far right. But I don't know. To be honest, I don't really want to get into it. Because I do appreciate you. But I guess I just don't want to turn it into that type of debate. But I appreciate that it hasn't been your angle, so. And yeah, honestly, I want people. I'm glad you're here, Cred, in general, because I want people that are on different sides of the political spectrum, because I think a lot of people don't really understand what people on the left actually think, and they believe in a kind of a cartoonish version of that. You're down with COVID? That sucks, Badika. Happy New Year, though. Daily, since Kyle was 2AT. Clickbait titles, overly hyperbolic views. I think Kyle can be a little bit crazy with it. I think he's better than most. He's better than all the liberal guys. Like, the Adam Mocklers and stuff. Those guys are ridiculous with their headlines. I think Kyle, for the most part, is pretty chill about it. A lot of flip out reactions to Nick, which I find very funny. I like good presenters. Yeah, that makes sense. No, I'm definitely glad you're listening. Yeah, I think Kyle probably talks about Fuentes too much, and yeah, he exaggerates. I think that's probably why he's able to compete in the similar space to some of those like more bigger left-wing, or not left-wing, like liberal people like Mockler and what's the other guy? There's a few of them. So, it's like they get a lot from the clickbait, Trump's hand is falling off, So Kyle does a similar but more substantive version of that. Lunta, it was just a joke they were making. Kyle seems to love focusing on conservative drama. Focusing on conservative drama is a good thing to do. I think yeah, I think a lot of people have found me from covering comedy. I think that's why a lot of people have stuck with me. Cross is emotionally unstable. Yeah, I think maybe he comes across a little emotionally unstable. I think he views that as an asset of his, you know what I mean? His ability to shout people down and, and just like be very unapologetic. So I appreciate that about him. It doesn't bother me. But honestly, the guys I like, whether it's Sam or Hassan or Kyle, I don't know. It's like I kind of just don't. I just appreciate that they're doing good work, even though I don't really like agree with them on every single thing. It's like I'm just kind of glad they're pushing the angle. So that's kind of how I feel about Kyle. Like, I don't think he's perfect on everything. I don't watch even most of his content. I don't even really watch a good chunk of his content unless he's talking about something that I'm specifically interested in. But I'm just glad he's there. I'm glad he has as big of an audience as he does. And because he pushes so well and we're pretty much in the same space, like, I feel like he does a good job. I don't really have that many critiques about what he does. Kyle's funny. He has kind of like canned jokes that he comes back to. I can see being annoyed with Kyle in the same way that Jank is annoying. But Kyle's better on the substance though. Kyle gets the substance right, so that's what makes it more bearable in my opinion. Yeah, Kyle comes off as principled. That's crazy since the W administration. No, it was the first Trump administration that I found the majority report. I think I found them through fucking videos of them talking about like Jordan Peterson and stuff. I'm pretty sure that's how I got into the whole like left-wing world of content. Because otherwise, I was definitely still like left-leaning, but I don't know. I probably would have stuck with much more mainstream like sources. Oh, yeah. The anti-war protests, I'm there for sure. They're going to happen. It just depends on how sustained this is. Yeah, I think Kyle's funny, but he's a little it can be a little canned sometimes. But I get it. I just get his project. I get what he's doing, so it doesn't bother me. I'm glad he's taking up that space. I think he's pretty responsible with it. Sometimes he will push stuff out there that like maybe isn't the best or like isn't the most thorough. So that would be my main critique of him. They think it'll be in and out. I just don't even see how that's possible. That's certainly how people like Lindsey Graham are talking. Like, you know, oh yeah, we're just gonna topple this dictator and then that's it. Most significant impact of U.S. sanction was malnutrition. 2.5 million people suffering from food insecurity and 22% of children under 5 experiencing stunted growth in 2019. That's a result of the sanctions we've put on Venezuela. It's just staggering, man. Just absolutely staggering. You like my voice? For president like AOC? I mean, yeah, Mamdani, how things go for Mamdani 100% implicates, you know, some kind of leftist social democratic socialist running for president. 100%. If he does a good job and governs in a way that people aren't expecting, that could help sweep somebody into office that has a similar political makeup to him. But if he doesn't do well, then it'll be very hard to make a case for the same type of politics. So somebody who has similar politics could potentially still win, but they would have to make a different type of case. So that's why Mamdani has to be effective on the affordability thing. I think he's starting strong. I think it looks good for him on that. I'm not sure, but it looks to me like he really plans to govern aggressively, and so I'm very interested to see what that turns into. Government broadcasts an address on all television. Hell yeah, Nano. Yeah, the pod save type guys and the Brian Tyler Cohen's and Dave Packman's, they're just a little bit more towing the line. Something that cracked me the fuck up that I saw about Packman. This is the perfect example of like the difference between somebody in that more liberal space. Although Packman used to be more on the left, but he was like, he went on CNN and did like one of those round table things. But then when he posted the video, what he posted about it, the title said, "They didn't like me talking about Trump falling asleep on CNN." And I thought that was the funniest fucking framing in the universe, because they didn't, I shouldn't even get so stuck on this, but they didn't like me talking about Trump. What do you mean, bro? That's exactly what they want you to talk about on CNN. That's all they, who is they? Are you talking about like the MAGA guys you argued with, or are you talking about CNN? You went and you really disrupted the CNN programming by bringing up Trump falling asleep. Like that's what you're there for, my guy. Background music. I tried to get it going before and it crashed OBS. Because, yeah, it's like they didn't like me talking about Trump and Epstein on CNN. Okay, great. They didn't like me talking about, Venezuelan oil on CNN. There you go. That's what they don't want you to talk about CNN. They want you to talk about Trump falling asleep. That's all they want you to talk about. I just thought that was so fucking silly. Because I'm like, who are you appealing to? You're appealing to an audience of people that thinks that's edgy and dangerous to say. And that's where I'm just like, I do kind of roll my eyes at that point. Tim Pool used to toe the line. Toe what line? I remember the Iraq War so well. Man, fucking Obama really should have done that, bro. The fear that Democratic politicians have of going after, these fucking criminals when they succeed them in office. Biden should have done it and Obama should have done it. And like, would it have been dramatic and insane? Yeah, fuck yeah, it would have, but it would have been worth it. The corporate shill line. When Tim Pool used to toe the corporate shill line. CNN's idea of staying balanced will kill it. I don't know what they're going to do. Because all these companies are vying to be bought by Paramount at this point. Dems are in on the profiteering for sure. The Center for Economic Policy Research has documented the negative effects on outcomes. Over the past decade, government and popular power initiatives like the communes have diversified the country's economy, creating more sovereign production and distribution systems. The country has become almost entirely self-sufficient. You just don't hear reporting about this, man. Hernan Vargas, spokesperson for Alba Movimientos and housing rights activist, condemns Trump's imperialist action and expressed confidence that popular power has armored against economic sabotage. Wow. So they're saying that the grassroots distribution networks that they've created since being sanctioned by the first Trump administration is designed to deal with this economic pressure. That's crazy. What that means is that in order to disrupt this, the U.S. would have to go and like burn their crops and shit, which we're certainly not above doing. Hey, 5 Eb&Flow memberships. Thank you, smart guy. Christopher Tablante finally got a membership. He needed that one. Hell yeah. Thank you for that, smart guy. Smart guy. Smart guy. Smart guy. Smart guy. SpongeBob, smart guy, pants okay. SpongeBob, smart guy, pants okay. Thank you, smart guy. I appreciate you. Always appreciate people helping to build the community. Russia helping out Venezuela against the U.S.? I don't know. I don't really know what their capability of doing that is. I would say that's unlikely. But that's my initial reaction. 20 more. Hell yeah. Cred just had to upstage him. Amira finally got a gift membership. China, I could see more than Russia. But even China, I think, would be hesitant about getting involved. Yeah, I think that's the first time you've gotten a membership, isn't it? No, it's not wrong. It's absolutely not wrong to root for Venezuela. It's not even wrong to root for Venezuela, fucking Maduro at this point. Upstager in chief. Because even if you fucking hate Maduro for this reason or that reason, he's still the underdog in this. And he is going to have to rely on rallying the people of Venezuela against Trump and against U.S. imperialism. So that's like undeniably going to put him on the right side of history, regardless of what type of despot he may or may not be. U.S. takes Venezuela, China takes Taiwan. I don't think the U.S. is going to take Venezuela or Taiwan. Or no, U.S. not going to take Venezuela. We're going to do some kind of regime change. They're going to attempt regime change, but we're not going to take the territory. Although, I mean, Trump would be the one to try it. Yeah, it's a great feature. And I don't know how it works. I don't know what the logic behind who gets one and who doesn't. Is it like the most engaged people? That's kind of what it seems like. But I really can't tell. Among the resistance mechanisms that became a lifeline during times of acute shortage and continues to operate today, feeding over 100,000 children. See, this is the type of shit we need in the United States. I'm going to do more research about this. The program connects rural producers directly with organized groups in urban areas, distributing fresh, affordable fruit and vegetables to schools nationwide. That is amazing. We now have diversification. Referring to a Venezuelan staple that had been controlled by an oligopoly for decades and disappeared from the shelves. Now, numerous private, state-led, and communal producers ensure that a variety of products are available nationwide. This is the kind of thing that they tell us is impossible. Yeah, that's just how it happens, Cred. Have a good night, Boudica. While we condemn and express our outrage. Primary challenge lies in integrating commune production into these distribution chains. Commune production into these distribution chains. Bomb small civilian vessels, killing more than 90 people, with U.S. officials claiming without evidence they were carrying drugs. The strikes have been classified as extrajudicial. Venezuela is not a producer or main transit of either cocaine or fentanyl. That comes from UN data. The Caribbean country is home to the world's largest oil reserves, with over 90% of its foreign revenue coming from oil exports. Since 2017, Washington has imposed financial sanctions on the state oil company PDVSA, followed by an oil embargo in 2019 and other secondary measures in 2020. Crude production reached historic lows, leading to an economic downturn, worst peacetime decline in modern history. Anyone else? No, it sounds like that's probably with just an issue with the way the stream's coming through, Luntha. Ryan Berg, director of the Americas program, had alleged that the U.S. was merely enforcing its sanctions policy when only pursues sanctioned. We don't summarily execute people who possess drugs with intent to distribute. unprecedented measure of warfare that is tantamount to a unilateral declaration of war. And that's what they were saying before these strikes even happened. It's weird. I wonder if it's saying that my... Says the stream's healthy on my end. Yeah, nah, not these gorgeous locks. Who's going to lead the opposition to Trumpism? I don't know, probably me. Probably me. Let's see what else we can see about this. Oh. Can you guys hear that? Is the music coming through? Boom, 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 boom. Who gonna take it there? Gavin Newsom? I hate that we talk about Gavin Newsom so much, bro. Venezuela imported practically 80 to 85% of everything that was consumed. Today it produces 94% of the food. Maduro highlighted the efforts of people and the government to confront the 900 coercive measures by the United States government against the oil industry, which is the great industry of Venezuela. Does Eb Mog Gavin Newsom? Of course I do. I 100% could out Chad Gavin Newsom. There's no question about it. No question about it. Yeah, Gavin Newsom versus Vance. I mean, it's certainly one of the options that could happen, but God, I fucking hope not. It's just wild that it's taken so long for the path to be clear of people like Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. Like, God, how much space did these motherfuckers clog up in our electoral progress for the last fucking 10 years? We have 3 years to find someone that is not Gavin. Yeah, you're correct that is the that's about the size of it. We got 3 years to find anybody who's not fucking Gavin Newsom. I don't know. I think all that's just memes. I do think back to basics that could he could win because of that. Like, he could have a certain amount of that support. Is that going to hold up throughout an election process? No, they wouldn't. They're not going to vote for him over JD Vance. All JD Vance has to do is be racist, and they're going to vote with him. How well would President Eb do? I think I'd be really good at communicating with the American people, and probably not that good at the other parts of it. I'd be a great communicator. The stream just cut out? Or was that just on my end? I miss you too, Amira. U.S. is a rogue state. That's a fact. Pete Buttigieg would just be such a flop. They might try to push him though, but he would be a major fucking flop. I think Gavin has actually a chance. I don't think Pete Buttigieg could even get through a primary. There's going to be a hell of a primary. That's what we got to keep in mind. So like in the same way that Biden was able to push through the primary in 2020 because of the name recognition and he was Obama's second in command. That's really why we ended up with Biden, because he had institutional support and pretty strong support in the base that got him through the primary. So that's going to be the dynamic that decides, you know, who the next nominee is like who has that type of electoral strength. So if a grassroots candidate, you know, cannot mount the momentum necessary to win that race, which is certainly possible, then it's going to be probably Gavin Newsom. I do not think Pete Buttigieg has the juice. Far right is serious about not voting for Vance. Yeah, but I think the far right probably overestimates how much of an electoral impact they really have. I do think the movement will fall apart without like the strong far right push, but at the same time, you know, I think the amount of people that are so far right that they would vote for Gavin Newsom instead of JD Vance because Gavin Newsom is like genetically a Chad or something, I do not think that's going to be decisive. I think that 90% of those far right people would end up going with Vance. More capable of playing the fake progressive. He's already doing a bad job. That's the thing about Pete, is that if he wanted to do that, he should be doing it already, but he's not. Instead, he is still trying to like do this equivocate thing and like trying to, you know, tamp down the idea of progressive rhetoric rather than embracing. He's not embracing the populist message. He's not embracing the AIPAC message. He's still equivocating about it. So if he was really smart enough to know that that's the way to go, then he would be doing it already. So much like Kamala Harris, him realizing at some point that he should be doing that is not going to make it work. Lo-fi be sounding dreamy. You'd vote for me, Nano? No, I see myself as more on the outside of things. Like, I'm more interested in this stuff about, you know, these like communes that distribute food in Venezuela. Those are the type of projects I see myself engaging in. I don't really want to be like the president. I don't even know. I have no idea what would even be possible to accomplish in some kind of office. I think my imagination is more suited to things that happen outside of government. Ed, did I see your comment? Pete Butt. That one? No, I saw it. It would be nice to get back to a point where the right is the one sabotaging themselves by withholding their vote. We'll see. I'm not sure if I buy it. Historically, they've been smarter about that. Storm the White House, full support to Venezuela. That'd be fucking sick. Not inconceivable. Not inconceivable that something like that can happen. Maduro pointed out that the path towards the diversification of the economy must be drawn very well. Venezuela has an industrial ability outfitted with a good technological understanding. The president lamented how, for more than 100 years, Venezuela lived only on the petrodollar. He will do it through his identity. Yeah, I think a lot of people will do that. Salvador. A lot of people will go for that. when it comes to Pete Buttigieg, but not enough. He's not going to build any real momentum doing that. Again, it's like he would have to get through the primary, and he's just not going to. That's not going to carry him through the primary. If he is smart enough to adopt a really sharp populist message, I think he could be a good communicator about that, but I don't think he has the balls to do it. I don't think that he wants that. I don't think that's the type of campaign he wants to run. I don't think it's the type of politician he wants to sell himself as. I think he would probably rather lose than, you know, try to be a populist. I just don't think he is that. PP butt. Did they catch Maduro? What do you mean, like, arrest him? No, he hasn't been arrested. Oh, wow. No, Trump said he did. They did capture him. Trump says they captured Maduro. Holy fucking shit. Yeah, I don't know that he would say that if it wasn't true. Trump said Maduro and his wife had been captured and flown out of the country. Venezuelan president captured and flown out. Successfully carried out a large-scale strike. So I guess they're going to try him. This is the post that Trump made. The United States of America has successfully carried out a large-scale strike against Venezuela and its leader, captured and flown out of the country. He says that was done in conjunction with U.S. law enforcement. It sounds like they're saying they arrested him. Sounds like they're saying they arrested Maduro. That's fucking nuts. So what that implies is that this is going to happen very fast. Because if they got him in custody, then I don't really see how anyone could resist a puppet government being installed. Yeah, but he said U.S. law enforcement was involved in this, more, you know, which goes beyond like military enforcement. So I'm just not sure why he would say that. It sounds like they're saying they flew him out of the country and into the custody of some American law enforcement, and he apparently was indicted for something about narco-terrorism in 2020. Yeah, he was indicted in an American court, so they could probably try him for that. Death to America. Protect Lula at all costs. Yeah, no fucking kidding. Is MAGA gonna fucking put up with this, man? We're just gonna fucking start wars wherever we want and just arrest whoever we want? Let's see what Twitter's saying about this. Oh, this is interesting. Apparently they did not notify the Senate Armed Services Committee in Congress, meaning that Trump did in fact go around Congress for this. Captured. Yeah, all the information that's out about this so far is that Trump said that Maduro has been captured.
Buenos días, pueblo heroico de Venezuela, soldados y soldadas de la patria, hijos e hijas de Bolívar. La Fuerza Armada Nacional Bolivariana informa al mundo entero que en la madrugada.
There's no captions for this, but he's apparently saying we will not negotiate, we will not surrender, we will ultimately triumph. This was after Maduro was captured. This is the Venezuela defense minister. So, not really sure what the plan is, Chief. Yeah, so we're not hearing confirmation from anybody yet that they captured Maduro. There's been at least this one guy who's come out and said something about it, the defense minister, but he did not say anything about Maduro. Well, I mean, that's how Trump leads, right? That's how he governs. He wants to do these things fast. He knows he's breaking the law, so he wants to break the law fast. Supreme Court gave the executive full immunity, that's true. What do I think about James Tallarico? Yeah, I think James Tallarico is good. I think he's better than Jasmine Crockett. I don't think he's perfect. I've always been a little bit skeptical of him, but ever since he was willing to come out and say that he will reject AIPAC money and that sort of thing, that made me a little better. Yeah, I think he's done a little bit of equivocating on things like Palestine, but being willing to reject money from the Israel lobby, to me, goes a long way. So even if he is playing to a crowd that, you know, incentivizes him to have a little bit like less of the pro-Palestinian flourish than we might prefer. If he's rejecting money from that lobby publicly, openly, then that implies that he's going to be willing to go against their interests, I would hope. And that's more than we've heard from Jasmine Crockett. Him being willing to say, I'm rejecting corporate PAC money and I'm rejecting AIPAC money. That's a pretty strong sentiment to me. Yeah, Tallarico definitely has a lot of potential with people that are, you know, maybe not usually progressive voters, or, you know, could help flip Texas. Bunch of other sources and still claim that you're not taking AIPAC money. Yeah, and Tallarico has taken a lot of money from like Adelson in the past, not in connection with October 7th, I believe. So like those connections are there, so he's worth scrutinizing in that way. But it's not just AIPAC, and it's not just corporate PAC money, but he said both. So, you know, there are other entities that you can look to say, are you receiving money from these people? And he should be scrutinized on that basis. But I think when it comes to, especially in a seat like his, where it's not enough to just be the most progressive candidate, he also has to be able to appeal to people who don't normally vote for that. You know, saying I'm going to reject money from Israel's lobby is about as good as you're going to get. But I agree with you that, like, he still needs to be held to account. And we can't allow people to just say, I'm going to reject AIPAC money. And I think that's kind of what Gavin Newsom was hinting at when he was saying, it's interesting to me that people always bring up AIPAC. Probably what he was thinking about and not saying is that, like, there's lots of ways to accept money from those same exact entities that aren't AIPAC. It's like he was saying that it's interesting that people focus in so much on AIPAC, even though that's not like really where all the source of pressure comes from. So, you know, there's probably something to that. But at the same time, you know, somebody who is what you might call a Zionist candidate is probably not going to say we reject AIPAC. That's a thing to keep an eye on. If, like, you know, AIPAC is going to give them permission to do that so that they can continue supporting Israel and escape some of the political pressure. That's certainly a technique we could see. I don't think it's fair to say that about Tallarico yet. We have to observe his actions, but I think he is better on the issue than Jasmine Crockett. How long am I going to be on live? I don't know. AIPAC's been rebranding. Yeah, they know that they have to. They know that they have to adjust, and they probably are going to be okay with, you know, telling some of their people that it's okay to publicly distance from them as long as they hold the line. The main thing with AIPAC is never conditioning aid to Israel. That's their main thing. They never want you to say that defense aid is conditional in any way. And so you can get away with saying almost anything else. You can criticize Netanyahu, starving babies, whatever. But as long as you don't interrupt the flow of money to Israel. So that's the ball that it's important to keep an eye on. And you know, it's hard to do. They're good at obscuring it. But how long am I going to be on here? I don't know. Maybe not that much longer. It's been almost 2 hours, so I'll probably go to the 2 hour mark. I mean, sounds like shit's getting fucking crazy in Venezuela, so I kind of want to see if there's going to be any more of an update there. But I'll probably hop off soon. No, Cory Booker sucks ass. Trump saying he captured Maduro is absolutely insane. Yeah, I'm looking at that now, Josh. There's not a lot of information about what that means. Anyone like Cory Booker? Yeah, it sounded like you were saying, does anyone like Cory Booker? Has not made such a direct intervention since the invasion of Panama. Narco state and rigging an election. Okay, baby, I'll get off soon. Just give me a few more minutes. There's no way he's saying that unless it's true. Doesn't mean that who knows what's gonna happen, but like, we should definitely assume that that's true. Yeah, I really wonder if MAGA is gonna support him on this. A lot of them are. This is what makes me wonder. So, like, obviously you have the pro-war neocon element of MAGA that is going to support him on this. They're just going to trot out whatever the excuse is. What makes me curious, the people who are genuinely anti-war, who genuinely are inclined to get upset about that and have made some noise about it when it comes to Trump. What I wonder is what Trump has done here. Like, let's say they arrest Maduro, they do whatever they want, they start installing some kind of puppet government, take whatever resources they want, just like full-on imperialistic regime change, right? Let's say that's what happens, which is, it looks like that's where this is going. Are they just gonna say, well, I'm anti-war, but Trump is so efficient, and Maduro is such a bad guy. What, do you want a narco-terrorist to be president of Venezuela? Well, I don't either, so he had to go, and Trump did it in the best possible way. It seems like that's probably what a lot of them are going to say. But I have been surprised on certain issues like Epstein that there has been genuine opposition to Trump, that they haven't just immediately jumped to the first excuse like they normally do. But it seems to me that when it comes to war, other countries where you can say like, oh yeah, that's where all the terrorism and the drugs are, so obviously that's bad and Trump had to do something about that, they normally go along with that. And it seems like that's like Joe Rogan is going to go along with that. But I just wonder. Oh, there's coyotes running around the street right now. I don't know. I just wonder when what was the thing that pissed them off? When we bombed Iran, that pissed a lot of people in MAGA off. They were mad about that. Are they going to be mad about this too? Or are they going to view this as a necessary intervention? They back them on anything. That tends to be true, but there's been more cracks in the MAGA coalition this time around than there has been. All strains of MAGA will all fall in line. They have no genuine convictions. I pretty much agree with you. I just wonder if we're going to hear... Are we going to hear anything? Are they going to make any noise? The anti-drug stance is going to play with most of the country. I don't know. I think it's pretty smart. That's a pretty smart narrative for them to go with. Four Horsemen, Stogie featuring Nasty C. Alright, I'll look that up later, Linta. Give Trump the Peace Prize or he'll kill us all. I like that. Beauty pageants, Mar-a-Lago. They aren't that upset with what's obvious. Yeah, and then there's that too, because the Epstein stuff is coming out in real time. And what you see from a lot of them, even ones that are willing to criticize him over the Epstein stuff, is they're saying, well, I just want a president who's strong on drugs and immigration in Venezuela. So I'm willing to overlook this Epstein stuff. You've literally pretty much heard a lot of them say that. So is that going to be the attitude they take here? Or is the Epstein stuff diminishing his credibility, simultaneously going to diminish his credibility when it comes to something like Venezuela? And like I said, obviously the most advantageous thing for him to have happen would be for all this to be move quickly so they can move on to the next thing. That's what he wants to happen. And it looks like it might. The question is, what's going to become of the on-the-ground resistance in Venezuela, which is not going to disappear just because Maduro has been arrested. That's not really how this works. But the question is, how strong is their network of resistance and communal resource sharing? Are they going to be able to stand up to this imperialism, or now that the head has been cut off, is it going to collapse? And that's assuming that the head has been cut off. Simply just supplying a demand. Yeah, but you get into this thing about fentanyl too, and I'm not saying this is the case when it comes to these drug boats, because they haven't presented any evidence of anything, but you know, the point is that if certain drugs are coming in from certain places that are cut and laced with cheap but very dangerous drugs, that's leading to outsized deaths in America. That's essentially the fentanyl crisis. But I think it's more complicated than that. And like, fentanyl is not coming from Venezuela, by and large. It's a full-on excuse. Narco terrorists, yeah. I mean, it shows how useful the word terrorist is. All you got to do is call something a terrorist, and you can justify pretty much any type of use of force against it. As long as you can say it's terrorism, there are no limits to what you can do to that enemy. It's really quite an innovation in warfare. I think most people are aware that Venezuela ain't supplying that. Yeah, but that's where I feel like, you know, they go along with the narrative every time. They're gonna buy that. They do not have the discernment to say that, like, well, wait a minute, Venezuela's not where all the drugs are coming from. By and large, you know, the narrative solidifies around whatever the Fox News commentators are saying when it comes to that sort of thing. The question is, do they feel that this is a legitimate use of Trump's power? I think in general they are, and I think the fact that he is expressing dominance, you know, the idea that he can just take over Venezuela, arrest the president, install regime, they want that. They want a president who can do things like that. So even though they claim to be anti-war, I think even some of the genuinely anti-war elements of MAGA are going to come out praising this because of how swift and repressive and brutal it was. Yeah, there's a tech. You thought I was black? Yeah, you're not the only person who said that. There's videos of me on my pod, or on my channel. Disagree the way it's moved around. Yeah, there is a technical definition to terrorism, but they just use it to arrest anybody they want. Slimed out by Trump 3 days after New Year's. No, I'm not black. I'm just from Cincinnati. Hoping it doesn't work in his favor. I mean, that's what we're always hoping. That's what I'm thinking, is that, like, he's crossed the line on many things. I'm almost from a psychological perspective. You know, you have all these people who genuinely felt like it's wrong for America to intervene and to be playing the international police. And that is the narrative that has completely flipped. Like, you had a lot of people who genuinely, that's what they were voting for. And yet, they have no problem now justifying military action in the name of Trump, especially if they can say, well, it was swift. He just dropped these bombs on Iran and then Iran folded immediately. He just did one strike on Venezuela and then immediately arrested the president. Like, you know, there's definitely not enough principle there for them to say it was wrong for him to do this. So is the fact that they don't want America to be involving itself in wars, is that going to bother them? Or because Trump did this swiftly, at least this arrest part, is that going to make them say, well, it's fine? And probably so. And probably the thing that would cause them to be upset is if this turned into a protracted disaster of trying to replace Venezuela's government, which is likely what is going to happen. Do you see Trump following through with his threats of bombing the cartels and using military intervention? I mean, if this goes well for them, then it definitely is going to embolden them. He wants to control the news. His health and Epstein and the economy aren't a good look for him. Warner Venezuela is what he wants us to talk about. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I buy that stuff. Like, it's all a distraction. Everything's a distraction from everything. I don't really think so. I think that he's doing all these things at once because these are all the things that he wants to do. Well, good thing there's no liberals here, Major Woody. Venezuela is a tactical move. Right, Trump didn't bother with a plausible narrative, but it doesn't really matter because as long as this happened fast and it's over, if this is over by the end of the weekend, then I really don't see his support being affected by it at all. Yeah, the cult will echo anything, and I do think that would fall apart if this turned into a protracted disaster like Iraq, Afghanistan. But even then, at that point, we're talking about something that is passed on to whoever the next president is. So, all the things his financiers want to do before he croaks. Yeah, that makes sense. So is the plan to distract? Yeah, but distract from what? If the flood the zone plan isn't really a plan to distract, it's a plan to overwhelm. So that's kind of what I'm saying. The idea that everything's a distraction from the next thing, I guess that's a more accurate way of describing it than to say going to Venezuela is a distraction from the Epstein files. Because then you could say, well, the Epstein files is a distraction from going to Venezuela. Which of those things is really more consequential? You know what I mean? So it's less that one is a distraction from the other and more that all of these things at once are meant to paralyze the response. So I guess just distraction is an overused word, in my opinion. Fox wishes the sheep well. All Marco Rubio's wet dream. I don't think he ever could have imagined that it would go this way. All right, I'm gonna look for one more update on this, and then I'll probably go for the night, guys. Do you think this is going to help his approval ratings or hurt them? I really don't know. I think if this goes smoothly, it could help them. I don't know. I would encourage you be here now to not engage too much with the TMZ style reporting on Trump. It just tends to not be correct. They've been spinning these narratives about Melania and Trump is sick and he's dying and he's this and that. We've been hearing that nonstop since the first time he came to power. It's just I don't know. When he dies, he'll die, and then we'll know that he's dead. I think this is a part of Project 2025. Said that the United States has carried out a large-scale strike. Yeah. So I guess the play here is that they say the rightful president is Edmundo Gonzalez. That's who the Venezuelan opposition and this woman that Trump, what do you call it? Rescued from Venezuela. The opposition leader. So it looks like they're going to try to put Edmundo Gonzalez in, and there's going to be some kind of power grab surrounding that. Yeah, but at that point, I don't know. I just don't know if the approval rating really matters that much. I don't think anybody really cares. Yeah, I mean, the most compelling stuff I've heard is about, like, his doctors and how his doctors have been saying, like, his doctors have been bothering him a lot, apparently, and he says he regrets initially getting scans, whatever brain scans he got recently. So, yeah, I agree something's up with his health, but it's, I don't know, just, I would say if there's anything you should tune out in terms of information, it's probably that type of stuff. Because, like, when something's really happening, you'll know. And I don't know, depending on obscure reporting for that type of stuff specifically, I think is a waste of time. I've just heard too much of it over the years. Like, people have been wrong about Trump's health the entire time he's been president. We were hearing about dementia right away. So I'm not saying that he's not facing some kind of dementia. But the unfortunate reality is that he's a lot better off cognitively than somebody like Biden, and that's just the reality we have to live with. He still seems to operate with a lot of intention, and we just have to accept that. And, like, yeah, he might drop dead tomorrow. I hope he does, but that, to me, that doesn't seem like I saw it, baby. I'm getting off soon. Anything new? So apparently he did a phone interview with the Times. He said a lot of good planning and a lot of great troops and great people. So what the General Vladimir Padrino Lopez had said was, the invasion represents the most blatant outrage suffered by the country. Crucial member of Maduro's coalition. The question for me is that guy going to be trying to run the government, or are they going to install somebody? And then that gets back to this network of, war of the entire people. Is this going to be a war of the entire people against U.S. imperialism, or is Venezuela's ability to resist this going to fold completely? Yeah, he is a tired old man for sure. But if we haven't declared war, apparently we don't need to. Apparently that's just not necessary. Alright guys, I think I'm going to take off for the night. It's been a fun one. I think what I'm going to do, I'll probably do another live stream tomorrow evening. And freestyle. I'll probably do like another live stream freestyle tomorrow, maybe around 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific time. So keep an eye out for that. Then I'll hop back on stream later. I'll probably try to make a podcast tomorrow night too, just for consistency's sake. Thanks for everybody for tapping in. We are now officially at war. Who the fuck knows where it's gonna go from here? I fucking hate this guy, man. Ugh. May we never forget. May we never forget what it was like watching this guy actually wield the power of the presidency. And may we never, ever, ever allow another president to abdicate their duty, knowing what we're seeing now. All right, guys. Much love. Appreciate you tapping in. Appreciate everybody who gifted subs. That's very, very appreciated. Helping to grow the community. And we'll just keep it real. And keep it solid. Solidarity to everybody. We'll figure this out. And remember that war is one of the best organizing vehicles. Nobody likes war. So if this turns into a protracted thing, then it is going to be an opportunity to radicalize people and break them off from the Trump coalition. So that's going to be the necessary strategy. Much love to everybody. Peace. Have a good weekend. Happy first weekend of the year. Yeah, happy new fucking year. Jesus Christ. Going to war 3 days into the new year. That's Trump for you, baby. All right. Everybody have a good night. See ya.